Hello everyone, this is Lexicon Architect, and for today's commander, we're going to be looking at Hackball of the Surging Soul, a 4-mana Simic Merfolk Scout that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk creature you control explores. So basically, you reveal the top card of your library. If it is a land, you put it into your hand, and if it's a non-land permanent, you can keep it on top or put it into your graveyard. And then also, when it attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And if you don't, you draw a card. So, this is what's going to happen. We're going to either draw a bunch of lands or we're going to pump all our merfolk. Either way, it's going to be great for us because we're going to load our hand with lands so that we always have lands to play off of our creatures. We can drop them onto the board with our commander, but if we don't, we draw a card. So there's a lot of really good stuff going on with this commander. At mana value 1, we have Hardened Scales to get an additional counter whenever we put a 1/1 counter onto a creature we control. And then we have Jade Light Spelunker with the X cost that it explores X times. So if we dump 5 mana into this, including the 1 green, we will explore 5 times. So we can see the top card of our library. If it's a land, like I said earlier, you put it into your hand. If not, it's going to get buffed. So let's say we find a card we want to keep on top, and we can explore 5 times, like I said with the example I gave you. We'll put 5 counters on it, and then if Hardened Scales is on board, we'll put an additional 5 counters on it. Next, at mana value 2, we have Deeproot Pilgrimage that says whenever one or more non-token merfolk you control becomes tapped, you create a 1/1 blue merfolk creature token with hexproof. Then we have Heroic Intervention to protect us from board wipes. We have Lord of Atlantis and Master of the Pearl Trident to bump our merfolk and give them island walk. So if an opponent controls an island, um, our merfolk are unblockable. So we can just freely swing into our opponent if they have an island. They can't block it and they're going to take a ton of damage. Next, we have Marrow Commerce that basically says at the beginning of the end of your turn, you get to untap all merfolk you control. So this is good for us because it allows us to have blockers in case we need them. Next, we have Nikanzil, Current Conductor, that whenever you explore, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tap. So let's say we have our commander out, we got 4 merfolk. We're going to explore 4 times, and we could just drop all of our lands from our hand onto the battlefield. And then whenever a creature you control explores a non-land card, you put a 1/1 counter on Nikanzil. Next, we have the Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, that is basically another hardened scale ability, but on an artifact. And then for 2 mana, we can put a 1/1 counter on target artifact or creature you control, activate only as a sorcery, and if for whatever case we don't need this card, we can sack it away for 2 to draw a card. Then we have Simic Ascendancy as a backup win con that says whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put on a creature you control, you put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if it has 20 or more growth counters on it, you just win the game. At mana value 3, we have Branching Evolution to double up on our 1/1 counters. So if this is out, we have 4 merfolk on board. We explore 4 times during our combat. Then we're going to double up the 1/1 counters going on those creatures. Next, we have Court of Garenbrig. When it ETBs, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can distribute up to 2 1/1 counters among 2 target creatures. And then if you are the Monarch, you double the number of counters on each creature you control. So when you become the Monarch at the beginning of your end step, you draw a card. Then we have cards like Kodama's Reach to help ramp us. We have Kumana, Tyrant of Oriska. I'm not sure how to say that. You can tap an untap Merfolk to give it unblockable, so it can't be blocked. You could tap 3 Merfolk to draw a card, and then you can tap 5 untapped Merfolk to put a 1/1 counter on each Merfolk you control. Next, we have Marrow Regery. It bumps our other Merfolks, and then whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you may tap or untap target land. Then at mana value 4, we have Defathom Echo. At the beginning of your combat this turn, at the beginning of combat on your turn, sorry, it explores, and then you may have it become a copy of another creature you control until the end of the turn. So we can copy our Merfolk Lords to pump the squad even more. Then we have Distant Melody to help us draw cards for our Merfolk. Elven Chorus allows us to select the top card of our library. We can cast creature spells from the top of them, and it also allows our creatures to become mana dorks. Then we have Herald of the Secret Streams. Creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them cannot be blocked. So since we're going to be exploring a bunch, all of our creatures should have 1/1 counters on them, so they become unblockable. Then we have Path of Discovery. Whenever a creature you control enters the battlefield, it explores. Roaming Throne to choose Merfolk. And then if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. At mana value 5, we have Mist Dancer that gives other Merfolk +1/+0 in flying. Then it has Encore for 7. Overwhelming Stampede as our late game win con. That is going to give our creatures XX and Trample, where X is the greatest power. And then Reflections of Littjara. As a ETBs, you choose a creature type, which will be Merfolk. And then whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, you copy that spell. As far as our lands go, we have Mosswork Bridge as Hideaway 4, and as long as we control creatures with power 10 or greater, you can play the exile card that you put under this for free by paying 1 green and tapping Mosswork Bridge. And I believe that it's it to cover for the lands. I mean, we have Path of Ancestry and Secluded Courtyard to allow us to scribe whenever we cast a spell that shares a creature type with our commander. And then the total cost of this deck is $256. As you can see, we curve out on turn 2. If you like this style of content, my subscribe avatar will be in the bottom right of the video, or you could just hit subscribe if you like this style of content, and I hope you have a good day.